Hey guys, Jim here with Creative Play and Podcast Network, and here we are again in August. It is now hashtag RPGaDay again for its 8th year. God, it's been so long. Again, we're joining in with all the other tabletop gamers out there to get creative and use the prompts now for RPGaDay 2021 to inspire you guys to all write, vlog, blog, draw cool pictures. This year they're asking for whatever you do. So we are going to go ahead and start out with the next day. All right, guys, here we go.
Hi, this is Kelly, aka Trixie from Ragnarok and Roll, assigned to Ragnarok Story, and Tilda Wimblewick from D&D Journey of the 5th Edition. First off, I would just like to say thank you to everyone for listening to our varied adventures, as well as for rating us on iTunes and RPGpodcast.com. If you haven't rated us yet, we would greatly appreciate it if you could. And if you're looking for more ways to support our efforts, we are now on Patreon, a great site where you can help us continue making more podcasts, as well as some special surprises for our patrons. If you can, please look us up at www.patreon.com/cppn. Every little bit helps. And again, thank you for listening.
Hey guys, Jim here.
And Kelly.
We are here for hashtag RPGaDay 2021, August the 10th. The word is trust, or also conscience, light, and advantage. Because D&D is better with advantage.
Yes, it is. Okay, trust. Well, there's nothing worse than when your character's trust is broken.
Oh, you're still going to browbeat me with
Yes,
that one.
I am still. I fucking know. Although it was, oh man, my character is broken. She is totally broken. Oh my God. So trusting, I trusted that dwarf, one of my characters. I had made a deal with some the dwarves in Scion that, I would basically spend the week or the few days with him, and exchange, total Freya, no, the dog thought I was calling her.
The Goddess Freya style bargain.
The Goddess Freya type deal about, with her, So I was going to get this cool, belly chain, that was going to have some really cool stuff, in exchange. Cause of course, they're incredible craftsmen. And we were having a great time, he and I. And then he betrayed me, and my character, the character itself has a lot of difficulty trusting. Heck, she's the scion of Loki. Trust is not easy. She herself is, she doesn't trust people.
Mm-hmm.
So, the fact that she did, they were having a great time. She actually trusted him, and then he betrayed her. It broke her. She was like, really, really upset. It broke her heart.
Now, in his defense, you did use your abilities to make him lose the auction. That would have cost him his head, so he had to then use the backup plan, which was to betray you since you won the auction.
No. Okay, that is neither here nor there. The fact that he had already put into, he was already planning to put this in there as as a possible inevitable, that in itself was enough. That he actually had made that contingency and built that trap into the belly chain.
Well, it wasn't built into it yet.
Still not cool. She's so not going to trust again. There's only a couple people she trusts, and her father is certainly not one of them.
Ooh, yeah, Loki. Loki's a hard one to trust.
Yeah, Loki. Yeah, dear old dad. Ooh, she is not happy with him.
I mean, let's almost think that he is the antitrust.
Yeah, because just
Because
don't do
just
it.
when you trust him, that's when he's going to betray
Exactly. So,
you.
yeah,
How?
when I think of trust, I think of when Trixie lost her trust, that's when she was betrayed.
Ouch.
Yeah, it hurt. I was devastated.
However, I will throw out the opposite angle of that of in GM we trust. I, I always like to say that because it sounds like in Gym we trust, but in Game Master we trust because first off, there has to be a sense of trust there because you're sitting at the game table. So you're trusting your GM not to railroad you guys horribly since they have an unlimited budget. And
Yeah.
if a killer GM wants to be a killer GM, it's not hard. I mean, it's really not hard. I mean, I've heard these stories of players can't be killed, and I'm just like, yes, yes, you can. You're just not using your imagination. But GMs should not be killer GMs because, for one, you can end up at an empty table that way if you're not
hmm
being a good guy, and making sure to be a good GM and a good facilitator of gaming.
Yeah, I'm not one of those player, that characters die. I understand that it's, but if you were to just total party kill or specifically engineer it to, uh, kill, then yeah, you're going to lose my trust as a player and I'm not going to play.
hmm And I can honestly say I've been in game sessions where GMs were known for murdering like a handful of character sheets a week. And that does kill the fun, especially when you make something cool and the GM basically makes specifically to murder that character as their goal. And that's a horrible thing. But more importantly, when I like to say GM trust, is the concept of like you guys, if you've watched the stream or anything or listened to us play Star Wars and stuff, I will often say, do you trust me to give you something cool for 3 advantages?
Yeah, that's true.
To know that if I'm gonna, and the game has an economy of when you have advantages, you can cash them in for stuff. That you can trust that I won't like give you something lame and stupid for a really good reward. It's going to be one of these things that what I'm telling you is going to be really juicy and good. It's going to be empowering what I'm going to tell you. What you do with it is up to you, but I'm going to give you something good and juicy for it. So there's that moments when a GM should be able to look at their players and to have that no shit moment of trust between each other. Do you trust me?
hmm
I mean, I've had players where I've written them on a note, do you trust me? And I give them some hint or something or some prompt, and then we go into left field like, you have been replaced by a body snatcher. I've done these things before, where the person's had to role play something and I trust them and they trust me, and it's one of those of don't be a dick. It goes back to the Will Wheaton rule of don't be a dick. As a GM, you have an unlimited power, but itty bitty table space. You only get 1/5 of the table to play at. You're part of the team. You are part of the shared storytelling experience. So you got to make sure that your players trust you, even though you're the good guys and the bad guys and the crazy guys. You have to have GM trust, and like that kind of spins off on the idea of like NPCs that your characters are bonded to. Some people have been so jaded over the years, they have to tell you, no killing my family members. And trust that you won't kill them when you say you won't kill them. I didn't kill them. I did
Yeah,
not kill
no.
them.
And she didn't trust that you weren't gonna break your word. And but that led to a very interesting storyline,
Mm-hmm.
and mass murder of dwarves. Um but we've probably told the story before, but
Once or twice.
when my sister had a character in Scion who basically started a relationship up with an NPC, and it progressed to the point where they actually got married. And out of game, my sister's like, you have to promise me that nothing will happen to the character's husband or children. And you promised, and you did, because that's the only, way. So when we were on her honeymoon, because we all went practically, there was an episode where, unbeknownst to her husband, the NPC, had been swapped out with basically a doppelganger. So when all of a sudden this band shows up and basically kills her husband in front of her, she lost her shit. I mean, no, you promised, because she trusted that you would have kept your word. And she thought that he had betrayed that trust, and she was livid. So basically it took 10 minutes to calm her down and lower the decibels. But eventually she found out, we eventually found out that it wasn't him that had killed, that it was a doppelganger that was going to kill all of us. And so even though we massacred more than half the 7 dwarves, yes, those 7 dwarves, before we found this out, we did wind up rescuing our husband, or the dwarves had, before we inadvertently took them out because they didn't tell us what was going on. But yeah, trust. Very interesting.
You young scions wanting to be told everything. You don't need the details. You just go off half-cocked, and the gods will trust you to do what you need to do.
Well, hopefully now I think, though, she will trust you more. Well, she had trusted you that you wouldn't have killed her husband, and then sure enough, turns out it wasn't her husband, though. So and then she was really upset. I think there was a bit of transference there,
There was some transference, yeah.
Exactly.
So just as a GM, make sure that your players can trust certain things in game. Like if you give them a house, don't burn it down. If you give them a boat, don't sink it underneath them. Trust your players to give them things and props. And of course, if they abuse it, okay, it can be taken away, but trust goes both ways. The GM should trust the players to not use out of game knowledge, things like that. The concept of someone at your table pulling out a monster manual to verify while they're fighting your monster, that's a bad sign of trust right there.
Yeah, that's bad form.
I mean, especially as I always tell everybody, the monster in the book is average. When you look at its hit points, that's average. They can be weaker, they can be stronger. Like as a GM, when I throw out things like, this thing looks like the sickliest version of a basilisk you've ever seen, probably means it's low on hit points, or if I say it's the beefiest ice wolf you've ever seen, it's a freaking alpha of the pack, and you better watch it. It's at max hit points, and maybe a level higher than it should be, because these are just guidelines. But trust your GM is not going to hose you over, especially if GMs are using CR, which is so broken in 5th edition. You can throw CR groups at your players and they will walk away with no problem each time. But it's not meant to be thrown out like that. There's no true codified, here's what you need to throw at your players. You need to trust them, you need to trust in their ability to play their characters, and you need to trust yourself in playing monsters, and just having fun. If your instincts say this is too tough for your players, it probably is. And if you're thinking they're going to mop their way through this thing, trust me, you're wrong. They're gonna have a hard time. They're gonna roll like crap. It's gonna be the worst thing ever. Because trust
I've
in your
been there.
DM, but pray to your dice gods.
Exactly. The dice can turn on you at any time.
And also, just one more, trust your GM. GMs trust your judgment. Don't be afraid to not pick up dice, because if it's not something that requires dice to be rolled, you can totally just describe to your players' actions. You can ask for your players' reactions. It doesn't have to be a dice roll every time. Totally fun when it is, but you can totally trust you guys to tell a story without dice at all. Especially if you know a character's got great charisma, or is really wise, or is really good at, throwing charismatic, snarky comments out, that you can just let that happen without a dice roll. That's one of those things I do notice that I've seen in games where somebody's role playing really awesomely, and they don't trust the player, so they make a dice roll happen, and the dice dick over this whole great thing that just came out.
Yeah.
Great speech that got, a St. Crispin's Day speech that got turned into this, let's go kill. And everybody goes right back to their beers and ignores the speech. So
that kind of breaks your heart.
That's just wrong. And that's because just trust everybody at the table. You're in a circle of friendship here, a circle of trust, that you need to trust everybody at this table, that you can be yourself, you can be open, you can be goofy, you can be silly, and you can sometimes be heartbroken. Gaming groups can go through some serious highs and lows and have to trust each other with stuff. We've all been at least one game table where there's a mini breakdown of some cool emotion that comes out across in somebody.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, even though that character that I just described not long ago, it's one of the most, it was extremely dramatic, and it was terrible for that character. And it completely changed this character, but it was so worth I wouldn't trade that experience, because it was moving.
And the best part is I trusted I could take it to that place with you. I wouldn't have done that to a lot of players, because I know I would have ruined them for life. But I trusted that you would be honest to your character and trust in the character's journey to let that happen.
Yeah, and it molded how her next, because at that point after this, they were going to demigod level, from hero level, and it molds what path she takes at that point, because she's utterly convinced she's the reason why Ragnarok is going to happen, because at every opportunity that they were trying to stop it, it was her that dropped the ball.
But isn't that the best? Because that's how Ragnarok works.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what you do to break it, it happens inevitably.
Yeah, and it's funny because in the story, the myth of Ragnarok, it's Loki heralds the, start of Ragnarok. And sure enough, I'm the scion of Loki, and I'm the one that starts
from a certain point of view.
From her point of view, it's so it shapes the character.
Yeah. And that's the nice thing when you have a group, with good trust, because there's certain things that heck, even when we record gaming stuff, because we're in a circle of trust, people say shit, and all of a sudden it's oh, I shouldn't have said that. It's yeah, I'm going to try to edit that out. Or remember, we're streaming, guys. I know we're in a circle of trust, but we're out there with, millions of other people listening. So be careful.
Mm-hmm.
Trust, but verify.
Yeah. And we were in RingCon one year, and we're at a, you remember the zombie, game?
Yeah. When we got to play Magpie Games, their version of the Walking Dead RPG.
Exactly. And with the Apocalypse engine.
Mm-hmm.
And my character, oh my God, my character was such a douchebag.
Oof, I love that
Oh
character.
my God. But the thing is, I played that character, but I had to trust,
Mm-hmm.
the other players and the GM, but I didn't know any of them. So, I mean, there was literally one point where I had to go, I'm sorry, this is not me. This is not me. Okay. And then as my character, I just like, I'm so evil. I'm like, please don't hate me. But that's what my character would have done. And sure, but it made for a good moment, but I did have to I don't know these people. This is the first time I've met most of them. I have to say, okay, this is not me. This is my character. Then
Mm-hmm.
just, I do something that's like
And
the
then you
most
went full
Negan.
Negan.
Well, I know, I totally, I could have taught Negan something at that point. Oh my God. I'm like, whoa.
But
But
the beauty is we trust, even though it's a bunch of gamers who just met each other, because we're hardcore role players. We trusted in the role play and the table, because and then that person you were playing with, they riffed right off of you. Remember that whole cop line, that
oh my God, we totally had, it was just
everybody at
like,
the table pushed themselves back from the table and went, oh
yeah. It
shit.
was like, no, you're gonna put him down. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. It's like, oh,
When you grodied yourself out, that's the
oh,
best trusting your character.
oh, yeah. That was, but you had to have a certain amount of trust in order to do that type of
Mm-hmm.
thing.
And I'll throw one last trust out there. Trust in your character. If you're
Hmm.
playing a character and you're role playing, which we're all about the ROLE, if you're role playing the character and your instincts, that little mask that you're putting on in your head to be in that character, if that character tells you it would do something, trust your instincts. Respect the character and trust the character to play himself or herself or itself or
It
they
could lead
self.
to, it could lead to some amazing
Yeah.
scenarios.
And let's be honest, we all know, we've all had at least one game when you're like, I would totally do this sensible thing, but my God, the character would do this.
Hmm.
And trust the character and play the character. We're role playing for a reason. We're not playing ourselves at lawyers and lawgivers or whatnot. And playing ourselves as an RPG, which by the way can be fun sometimes. But we're playing a character that is a life and role of itself in something bigger than us. So
Yeah.
trust in that character to have cool ideas and things that are outside your box. I mean, that's why we play role playing. I don't walk around with the giant sword hacking at stuff all the time, but I would totally be a pyromancer using fire. Oh, wait, I do 4th of July. So it's
Random.
just totally trust, your players, trust your GM, trust your table. If you can't trust, you probably need to find another gaming group. I'll throw that one out there. There are times that random groups just don't click, and if you don't feel trust, you can't make trust happen. It's one of those of it's either there or it's not.
Hmm. But don't trust your dice. They will betray you.
Your dice will turn on you in a second.
They do. They want to see your dice are out to get you. So that don't trust them.
Your dice are the proverbial scorpion. It's going to sting you because it's what they do. And
They
then you
may
put them in
lull you
jail.
into a false sense of security, but they're just biding their time.
They lead you out into the wilderness and then leave you hungry and cold and alone because you trusted them. And that is totally leading on to tomorrow's word, which is wilderness. Wilderness. Do you trust me to wrap up now?
Yes.
Okay, in that case, in GM we trust, and that's a good place to wrap it up there for August the 10th. See you guys tomorrow, or maybe you won't because we might be lost in the wilderness. Thank you for listening, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Play and Podcast Network, and feel free to enjoy our other shows such as D&D Journey of the 5th Edition, and Scion Ragnarok and Roll, a Scion hero to Ragnarok story. Thank you for listening.